What insurrection? Which I can't believe I just had to say. Details, numbers, you know the drill. As we pore over today's jobs report for the deeper meaning, as we are wont to do around here, it is good to remember this is a really different kind of recession. People are losing jobs temporarily, job losses that might become permanent or might not. Whole big chunks of this economy are basically frozen in amber. And good as it is, the jobs report has a hard time accounting for all of that. But there is one number that's worth keeping in mind, even if it, too, doesn't tell the whole story. Marketplace's Megan McCarty-Carino has this story on long-term unemployment.
Nearly 4 million Americans have been unemployed for 6 months or more, according to the latest data. Dean Baker is a senior economist with the Center for Economic and Policy Research.
This is obviously a story, people losing their job at the beginning of the crisis in March and April and not getting it back.
They make up a growing share of the unemployed, reaching 37% last month.
After people have been unemployed for more than 6 months, they find it much harder to get a job. And if they do get a job, their labor market prospects could be permanently worsened.
And the long-term unemployment numbers only include people who are actively looking for work.
There is this group that's feeling discouraged and who say that they're worried they may not find a job at all and feel like giving up.
Julia Pollock is chief economist with job site ZipRecruiter. She says right now there aren't many jobs to look for in some of the hardest hit sectors like retail and hospitality. Those industries are dominated by younger workers, people of color, and by women. Their labor force participation has fallen to levels not seen since the 80s. Emily Martin is a vice president at the National Women's Law Center.
We are really seeing a risk that women and families are not only being hard hit now, but really may be taking a long time to recover.
With disruptions to school and daycare, many moms have to stay home with the kids. More than 2 million women have left the labor force, potentially setting back their careers beyond the current crisis. I'm Megan McCarty-Carino for Marketplace.
One more thing on the actual jobs data, adhering to the policy of this program that if we stop talking about this stuff, we're going to stop talking about it. White unemployment, 6% last month. Black unemployment, 9.9%. The virus, as I believe I've said a time or two on this show, and as Neela said about 3 minutes ago, is in charge of this economy right now. So who gets the vaccine for it and when is going to have a lot to do with how this economy goes. Among the slices of this economy that lost the most jobs last month, restaurants and travel and leisure. So it's of note that in Washington, D.C. next month, restaurant workers move up in the vaccine line. Marketplace's Jasmine Garst has that one.
Allison Lane bartends at several different places in Washington, D.C. She says even with the pandemic raging, patrons waiting for food and drink
decided that it was okay to take off your mask if you're sitting down at a table. It's like, okay, so the virus stops if you're sitting down?
Which puts servers like her at risk many times a day. She says vaccinating restaurant workers.
It definitely is an acknowledgement that restaurant workers are important, and we are often exposed to disease without any health insurance.
And vaccines won't just protect the health of workers, they could be key to rebuilding the health of the restaurant industry. More than 100,000 restaurants have closed temporarily or for good since the pandemic began. Hundreds of thousands of restaurant workers have lost their jobs, and millions of people have stopped eating out. William Wheaton is an economist at MIT. He says,
without a restaurant industry, it is really hard for a city to survive. That's half the reason people live in cities.
Sekou Sibi heads up Restaurant Opportunity Centers United, an advocacy group. He says the health of people handling our food is critical to combating the pandemic.
We have always considered restaurant workers, healthcare as a public health issue. So the DC ordinance is something that is a very exciting news for us.
Sibi says he hopes other cities and states will follow DC's lead. I'm Jasmine Garst for Marketplace.
Coming up.
It's turned from one need to another need, and so I don't think bartering will ever go out.
Getting by in this pandemic economy. But first, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 56 today, a 10%, 31,097. The NASDAQ added 134 points, 1%, 13,201. S&P 500 found 20 points, about a 0.5%, 38 and 24. For the 5 days gone by, and remember we talked about disconnects on this program yesterday? The Dow up 1.6%, the NASDAQ ascended 2.4%, the S&P 500 rose 1.8%. Pfizer says its COVID vaccine appears to be effective against new variants of the virus, not peer-reviewed, though. Pfizer up 0.2%. German partner BioNTech, or BioNTech, the CEO says you can say it either way, packed on more than 7%. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by GEP, helping build resilient supply chains with strategy, managed services, and AI-based cloud-native software. With the GEP Smart Digital Procurement Platform and GEP Next, real-time supply chain visibility and management software. GEP.com. And by the Renzetta Family Charitable Fund and Next Gen Personal Finance, a nonprofit organization that believes all students benefit from having a financial education before they cross the stage at high school graduation. Online at ngpf.org. And by Fidelity Wealth Management, providing perspective on a client's entire financial picture. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
You know that song you heard on Marketplace, the one you really liked? It's an earworm, isn't it? Don't you wish you knew what it was? We've got the whole list of the music we play on the show at our website, marketplace.org/music.
From news to numbers, you count on Marketplace to explain what you need to know. Get Marketplace delivered to your inbox every day and never miss a beat. Subscribe to the newsletter at marketplace.org.
How does democracy recover from an attack? Are Republicans serious about removing Trump from power? Meanwhile, about 250,000 Americans test positive for the coronavirus each day. We check back in with those who got sick months ago and are still recovering. Saturday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Saturday mornings at 8 on 88.3 WLIW FM, Long Island's only NPR station.
What do a vaccine scientist, the Federal Reserve, and mixed martial arts have in common? They're all part of the Planet Money extravaganza we call The Rest of the Story. And on How I Built This, we meet a self-described anxious entrepreneur who says being self-aware has made her a better leader.
People respond to people who understand themselves and who aren't fake.
That's on the next Planet Money and How I Built This from NPR.
Saturday mornings at 6 on 88.3 WLIW FM.
I'm Kai Ryssdal. You're listening to 88.3 WLIW FM and WLIW.org/radio, Long Island's only NPR station. This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. Numbers and data are fine, right? They give us a way to figure out some of the big forces at work in this economy. But behind all those statistics are business owners and bosses in unprecedented economic conditions making decisions about hiring and firing. So from our bureau in Austin, Texas, Marketplace's Andy Euler talked with some of those people.
Way back when, about 1.5 years ago, Christoph Irwin was starting to expand his sustainable home design and engineering business, Positive Energy.
We actually brought on a lot of new staff in late 2019, early 2020, and then boom.
Probably don't need to tell you what the boom was. He kept his 18 full-time employees, but says now's not the time to hire more. There's just too much uncertainty. He says as a business,
we are treading water, and as people, we're exhausted.
Like many other small business owners, Lizelle Villapando can relate. She runs a boutique in Austin called Parts and Labor, and she's burned out.
If I could turn 3 of my part-timers into full-timers, then I would feel comfortable taking 2 days a week off.
but she's not selling enough stuff to hire anybody.
The cost of having like 5 full-timers and the cash flow that I'm seeing now is scary.
Cash flow is why Shelley Meyer is running her several Austin gift shops with only about half of the people she had on before the pandemic.
There's less work. There's less work and less customers. So when we have more customers, we'll have more shifts. We'll need more merch. We'll have to bring in more people to process that merch. So we just have to wait until it happens.
She normally employs 3 people to run a warehouse full of inventory, but there's not a lot of product coming through the stores, so right now there's no need for those workers. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
There have been, as you know, some questions about how the vaccine rollout's been going the past couple of weeks. Some organizational questions, who's in charge of what, who goes first, and some logistical questions, freezers and multiple doses. You've heard those issues. Those challenges were always going to look a little bit different in rural America. And that is where Dr. Scott Anzalone, one of the 10 people we've been following in our series about the American labor force called the United States of Work, is a family physician. He's got a small practice in Logan, Ohio. He is also the president of the local school board. Scott, it's good to talk to you again.
Oh, nice to talk to you again.
First of all, as you step out the front door of your clinic there and you walk down the streets of Logan, Ohio, what's it like right now?
It's kind of gloomy, gray Ohio. About temperatures about 35 degrees.
Which matches the mood in a lot of ways.
Yes, it does.
So as you go about your duties as, number one, a small town doctor, and number two, the president of the local school district, how are things?
Oh, things been busy here since Thanksgiving. COVID has made us all active in each of our jobs, trying to keep our kids educated and keeping our offices going. It's been a busy time.
Well, let's take them one by one. You as entrepreneur and a medical practitioner, are you like seeing patients in your clinic? Are you able to vaccinate those? Do you get the vaccines? I mean, give me the rundown.
Yeah, so I've been seeing patients face to face since this all began. I've never not seen patients, so I'm not a big telehealth proponent. As for the vaccine, my staff and myself, we just got vaccinated on Monday. The hospital staff, emergency room staff, and they were first line, obviously. But we just now got the vaccines about 2 weeks ago here in Hocking County.
And this is an illustration of the logistics of this vaccine, right? Because you are at the end of the supply chain. You're in a small town. You probably don't have those nuclear-powered freezers you need for these vaccines, right?
No, we didn't. Actually, our local critical access hospital had the funds to buy one of those for the Pfizer vaccine, but they were back ordered. So we weren't in line to get the Pfizer vaccine, but we do have the Moderna. And the problem we're running into is logistics here locally is we're only getting, our county is only getting 100 doses a week. I'm looking at trying to get my office signed up so we can receive them and give them in our office. So it'll take some of the burden off their health department.
Yeah.
Our next big push right now is to get our teachers and all of our school staff vaccinated. But again, we've got about 450 teachers and faculty and staff in our building. If we're only getting 100 doses a week, that's going to take some time.
It's not going to do it. Well, thank you for the segue to your side gig, your side hustle, as it were, as the president of the local school board. Are you in session in person? Are you out of school? What's going on?
So our school district, we've been able to keep our kids in class up until Thanksgiving. Right before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving, things kind of hit the fan here locally. We got a spike in cases and it went virtual. That, was logistically difficult because we have a lot of areas here that don't have good internet access. But we were able to pull it off. Our attendance rate, we kept it up, but the grades were starting to slide. Starting next Monday, we'll be going back full time.
Wow. I remember last time we talked, which was a number of months ago, you were putting Wi-Fi hotspots on school buses and driving them around, or did that work out?
Yeah, so we were able to put some hotspots on buses and move them out into the county. We also beefed up our internet abilities at each of our elementary schools so that parents could actually come to the parking lots as well and would have free access.
So let's talk about the future here for a second, because early on in our talks, I asked you about what's next for you as you start thinking about maybe next steps in your life and retiring and all that. And we had talked about trying to find a partner for your practice. Have you found one yet?
Well, fingers crossed. I've actually got a resident who's finishing up her residency in June this next year, in the summer, who's coming to do a 1 week rotation with me starting Monday. Kind of a working interview, so we can interview each other basically. So she's checking me out. So I've got my fingers crossed that God's sending me someone here that can help us out in our community. So
it's funny.
We wait and see.
It's got to be a remarkably personal thing, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's tough to find someone who's willing to come into a rural community, and especially now with the political environment we're in, we have no idea really what medicine's going to look like in next year, 2 years, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping she'll see the pluses of a rural, small town private practice.
Well, fingers crossed for you, Scott. Fingers crossed. Dr. Scott Anzalone, he's in Logan, Ohio, runs Stagecoach Family Medicine. It's his private practice there. Scott, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we got national jobs numbers today. As you know, state reports aren't going to be out for another couple of weeks, but it's a safe bet that New Jersey, Nevada, and Hawaii, which all had unemployment rates above 10% in November, are going to stay right in the top three. Veronica Kuhn, she's a hairdresser in Henderson, Nevada, found a way to help her community, a Facebook bartering group, people trading for stuff that they need. When she started it back in March, a lot of people were looking for hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes and, yes, toilet paper as well. We checked back in with her just before Christmas to see how things might have changed.
So in the barter group now, we have a lot of people looking for items for kids and family members and food. Most of November, we had toilet paper and paper towel shortage, and the disinfecting wipes and stuff were, gone. And people were still posting, where can I find them? People were posting, what stores had them at what times. And now in December, it's more toys and stuff like that for their kids, and they're on their last paycheck or whatever. So this one lady was looking for a game for her son. She had already gotten assistance for her younger kids, but the 17-year-olds are a little bit old for the charities out here that help with toys. So she had brand new shoes and stuff like that she was willing to barter for this game for her son. It's turned from one need to another need. And so I don't think bartering will ever go out, just because there's always going to be a need for people and people not having the cash to get their needs. And I'm super glad to see other people pick up on it in our community and in other states and stuff like that, because there's barter groups all over the country now. And I just think it's something that's necessary. Even not in a pandemic, it's necessary.
That's Veronica Kuhn in Henderson, Nevada. That's outside of Las Vegas. You can tell us about your economy. You can do it at marketplace.org/myeconomy. On the way out today, at the end of this long and sad week, more of an observation, really. Our democracy works, fundamentally, because we believe in it together, because of a shared sense of common purpose and belief in facts. And right now, based on this week, that's kind of up in the air. But this economy works pretty much the same way. We buy and sell on faith and credit. We borrow and spend because we believe the deal is worth it. And there are, as we talk about a lot on this program, real injustices in our politics and our economy and in the politics of this economy. But just because I said on this program on Wednesday that I was wrong the night President Trump was elected to think things were going to be all right, I do believe we can get there.
Marketplace is supported by Edison Research, dedicated to quality consumer research and public opinion polling for corporations and organizations worldwide. Learn more at edisonresearch.com/marketplace. And by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, committed to thriving children, working families, and equitable communities. Learn more at WKKF.org. And by Cabot Creamery, a farm family cooperative since 1919, crafting traditional cheddar cheese, offering comfort recipes and educational resources at cabotcheese.coop.
All right, we got to go. As I said, at the end of a long week that is going to be in the history books. Next week will too. BJ Liederman does our music. Marketplace's executive producer is Nancy Fargali. Nancy Cassett is the managing director of news. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We'll see you Monday, everybody. This is APM.
Serving East